AI has made some giant leaps in YouTube content creation recently, and a lot of people have been using it almost 100% on a channel, which I wouldn't suggest because that's very hard to get past YouTube's terms of service with that, or you have to disclaim it. Using AI isn't going to give you the best results and the best quality. However, there is one that's going to help you get a lot of the way there, even if you don't want to use your own voice. 11 Labs comes in handy when you want to recreate someone's voice from an interview and have them say something that they didn't originally say that helps get your message across. Or if you're chopping up audio, sometimes they roll over their words and you can't quite get them to say that thing without sounding like you cut off their audio. So using 11 Labs is a really great example on how you can use this tool, and it's extremely powerful. So let's dive in and I'm going to show you how to use it. So once you've created your free account on 11 Labs, you're going to be greeted by probably this screen where you're on the Create tab, which is what I'm at right now. You can do text to speech, or you can do speech to speech, so they do dubbing too. That's really nice. So if you want to do an English video and then translate it into another language, you can do that. That's really powerful, and I love that. However, I'm going to stick to the text to speech for now because this is extremely powerful. Now, the settings of this is actually quite unique. If you click on the voice actor or whoever you want to use, you've got recently used ones that you've saved over time. I'm going to choose just one that I've used in the past, and you can go into the voice settings, choose how stable you want the voice. So this kind of adds a bit more expression and variance to the voice rather than saying it sounds a bit more monotone. But you have to be careful that the further you take this up, the more unstable it's going to get. So I usually keep it around about just under the red, and the same thing for the style exaggeration. You've obviously got to be careful because it could get unstable and it just starts talking gibberish sometimes. So again, with both of those, I keep them just under the red portions. The clarity and similarity enhancement is, I take that up pretty high just because I want to keep it clear throughout and the voice sounding the same throughout. So that's pretty good. And the 11 multilingual version 2 is the best option that I've used in the past. There are times where the version 1 works better, but those are on cloned voices, and I'll get to that in the future. But you can hear how realistic this sounds just based on a generated voice from 11 Labs themselves.
Remember that this is just an AI and it isn't perfect. It takes my English-sounding voice and adds a little too much American accent to it.
So it's not 100% realistic, but it gets you about 98% of the way there. It sounds really realistic. Let's go to the history because I've done some tests in the past, and I've done it with my cloned voice, which I'll show you how to do. But let me just show you how realistic this can get. So I'm going to play one of my generated ones. It keeps a whole history and it shows you what text was with that, which is quite nice. Remember that this is just an AI and it isn't perfect. It takes my English sounding voice and adds a little too much American accent to it. So you can see there, it doesn't sound quite perfect and it actually sounds a little bit more robotic. However, just adjusting if you go to the Create tab and let's say you want to fix that, but still have the same sentence, sometimes I might reduce this by 1 or 2% and the same thing here, or increase it by 1 or 2%. Then I'll regenerate it. And this is what you can sometimes get as a different result, but still it sounds really good. So this was a second attempt at the same sentence. Remember that this is just an AI and it isn't perfect. It takes my English sounding voice and adds a little too much American accent to it. That one actually didn't add too much American accent to the voiceover, so it did pretty good. However, if your English or just your accent in general isn't an American accent, sometimes 11 Labs will add a little bit of an American accent twist to it. It's not a big deal, and sometimes regenerating it does help fix that because maybe it's just learned what you just said and it's going to relearn that text that you typed in so that it tries a second attempt at it. Sometimes it takes that and it works just fine. A lot of people have issues with generating large documents for their content and it just starts speaking gibberish. So let me go into one of my projects here because this is where your bigger projects happen, and let's say you want to put a whole document in and just generate it all at once to save your time. Because when you go to the Create tab, you can only do a maximum of 5,000 characters at a time. And that's what you get for the free plan per month. So you only get that amount per month with the free plan. If you get the paid version, I've got a total of 50,000 right now. I think I've used half of that. So you get 100,000 with some plans, 50,000 characters with another plan. Depends on what you want. So if you go to the projects tab, let's open the Flappy Bird one. So you can see I've got all my text in here, and these lines on the side represent the fact that it has been generated by the AI. So what happens is this paragraph here, if I press play, it's already generated that audio because I've already essentially rendered out this whole project. So if I play it.
Flappy Bird was the brainchild of Dong Nguyen, a Vietnamese indie developer. Created in mid-2013, the game was initially designed as a lighthearted pastime.
So the nice thing is if it says something wrong, you can reword a word to make it sound different. It especially struggles with numbers. So let's say 5,429. So let me show you that. So you can see I've typed that out here, and what I do is I press play. Right now it's going to generate that audio.
$5,494 was the amount that I said.
So you can see it struggles with numbers sometimes. So often I just convert these into words, or really sometimes I just use ChatGPT and I just type it in and I say in words. It just saves me a bunch of time. So I'm going to copy and paste that here. Okay, so I substituted the number for text. So let's go ahead and play that, which it would regenerate it. You can also use the regenerate button. Sometimes it's grayed out, so I just press the play button and it works just fine. Make sure that that paragraph is selected when you do that.
$5,494 was the amount that I said.
So it does even better. And sometimes you might want to regenerate that. So let's say it didn't do very well. I'm going to go ahead and click regenerate, and it's going to try again. Based on what it's learned in the first attempt, it's going to take that into account for the second one.
$5,494 was the amount that I said.
So that worked out pretty good. Now, sometimes that might happen throughout your entire project. So let's say that in the beginning of this paragraph, it messes up the words. Most of the time, it's going to mess up the entire paragraph. So a good rule of thumb is to separate your large paragraphs into smaller ones. So here's an example here. This was 2 paragraphs initially. So what I did was I started a new line. Essentially, once it's finished reading that first paragraph, if it made a mistake, it essentially resets on the next paragraph so that not the entire paragraph is messed up. Because then what I do later is I take it into Premiere Pro, or whatever editing software you want to use, play it back, and any sentences it says wrong, then I'll go back to the screen here with I create, retype in that paragraph or sentence that it gets wrong, generate it, and often it gets these smaller chunks done more accurately. So then what I do is once it's regenerated that correctly, I download it and just substitute that in my editing project, and it sends the audio through and it sounds perfect. Now, how do you find all the voices on 11 Labs? Because what if you don't want to use your voice, or you just want to use a pre-made voice? So let's go to the voices tab here, and we can go ahead and explore, and it's got a wide range of voices. So these check marks here, they're kind of the professional voices where they've been created by other people. And you've got different filter options here. A good option to do is if I click this, you can get the advanced filters. You can choose professional, which is these check marks. Not all the professional ones sound good because the person who created them might not have a good mic. I leave that at its default. I'll go to gender. Let's say I want to do female. You can choose young, middle-aged, or old. Let's do middle-aged. And you can choose the different accent. So you can choose samples here.
I've often regretted my speech, never my silence.
So that's pretty good.
To bring anything into your life, imagine that it's already there.
And let's scroll down to see if there's no... Okay, there's a professional one. So let's see.
The heart has eyes which the brain knows nothing of.
So you can see the voiceover wasn't created very well there. The microphone wasn't good when they trained 11 Labs on that voice. So you got to be careful. Not all of them, the professional ones, are going to sound good.
You cannot be lonely if you like the person you're alone with.
So again, it's pretty decent. It depends on what microphone you train the model on. So that's really nice. You can use these. So when you like one, just click add to voice lab. You can name it and then add voice. Or if you want to, you can clone a voice. If you want to clone your voice or someone else's, so for example, like in your editing project, that person says a sentence and then the end of that sentence rolls onto another sentence. And if you cut off, you only want to use the first part. If you cut that and it sounds like you just cut them off at the end of the sentence and it just sounds weird, you can regenerate that last part or even the entire sentence and just use the last part of the sentence from the AI generated audio from 11 Labs, substitute that in there, and it sounds completely normal. So let me show you how to create that. And there's 2 ways to do this. There's a quick way, which is almost instant. It'll take a couple minutes to generate. And there's another one where it does AI model learning on your voice. And it takes on average about 2 weeks. It took mine a little bit longer. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe my voice is just hard to listen to. But let's go ahead and go to create. Now, when you want to create a voice, these are my current ones that I've saved in my project from the Explore tab. But let's say I want to create one. So I'll click plus. You can choose voice design, which is just one of the voices from the library, or you can choose instant voice cloning, which is what it sounds like. So I'm going to go ahead and click it, and you can upload your audio files. So let's say you've got your interview from your video project, upload the audio of that interview. Make sure that you don't have anyone else talking in that audio clip, because that's going to mess up the voiceover. And also just use talking parts. Don't use any dead space where, you know, the person in the interview is waiting for the question or whatever. Just cut out those dead spaces and other people talking. Just have the interview person talking. It's just a lot better results. So once you've uploaded those files, you can even do record audio. So I can record my own voice right now. So you can do up to 30 seconds. Those audio clips that you upload can be longer, which you get better results and more accurate results. So I recommend that. But name it. You can choose different descriptions, you know, give permission. And then once you've added your voice, the either recording or the file, when you upload it, you can go ahead and add voice. I did that with my previous voice. It was okay, especially with my English accent. American accents it does better with. What I did after that is I wanted to get a more specific and accurate voiceover, or clone, I should say. So what I did was I did professional voice cloning, and I can't do another one because my plan doesn't allow me to do two. I've already got one, so I probably have to delete my current one so I could create a new one, which is fine. I mean, I don't pay a huge price. I think it's like $15 a month or $10 a month, and I use this quite a lot. Again, you would have to upload, I think it's about 30 minutes of you just talking, because it needs to clone or get a really good model of your clone. So once you've done that, you go through a couple steps. You've got to actually have your microphone active when you do this, because they have to make sure that it's your voice. So they'll ask you very specific things to say. Sally sells seashores on the seashore, for example. And they'll make sure that that voiceover that you just recorded while doing this application matches the one that you uploaded, because they don't want to create someone else's voice without their permission. So you got to give your permission, which is basically that process. And that's what I did in order to get these results over here. So if I go to my history and I play this.
Remember that this is just an AI and it isn't perfect. It takes my English-sounding voice and adds a little too much American accent to it.
So that's how I was able to get that AI of my own voice. And it sounds pretty good. Okay, so when you've created your voiceover from your clone and you want to be able to generate audio with it from the text, here's how you do it. I'm going to go ahead and select my voice over here. I'm not going to change those settings, those look good. I'm going to use the version 1 because it generates better with this model. So let's go ahead and generate it, and I'm going to show you what it sounds like.
Remember that this is just an AI and it isn't perfect. It takes my English-sounding voice and adds a little too much American accent to it.
That was actually almost perfect. It sounded really good. It even has the breath in the beginning. Listen to this.
Remember that this...
That's extremely realistic. Now, just to mess around, let's go with version 2. So let's go with version 2 just to show you how bad it can get. And it does give a warning saying, hey, this is probably not a good idea. But let's go ahead and generate it anyways and see how it does.
Remember that this is just an AI and it isn't perfect. It takes my English-sounding voice and adds a little too much American accent to it.
That did not sound good. So you can see how just choosing your settings changes how the voice sounds. Now, keep in mind that the version 2 works really well with the other generated audio. So the ones that are not custom with the check mark. So for example, let's do Luke, just a random one. And then let's check our settings here. Let's make sure the exaggeration is up, and then version 2. Okay, let's generate that again. Now you can see that this is going to sound good because these are generated from 11 Labs themselves. So they're more stable.
Remember that this is just an AI and it isn't perfect. It takes my English-sounding voice and adds a little too much American accent to it.
So that was pretty decent. You can hear the first part of it didn't sound that great.
Remember that this is just an...
So, I mean, it's just a case of clicking generate again, and it'll regenerate. You can also add some feedback here. So if you didn't like the generation, you can do a thumbs down.
Remember that this is just an AI and it isn't perfect. It takes my English-sounding voice and adds a little too much American accent to it.
So you can see the first part it did better at it. So I'm going to use that section. So I can click download and download that and use it in whatever project I want. Now dubbing is a whole nother level, and I haven't even used it that much, to be completely fair. So I'm not going to teach you on how to do it because I need to learn more in depth of how to use it and its nuances and some of its features and maybe its downfalls too. It's probably not going to be perfect. I have used it a couple times, and from what I've seen, it does really well. It basically, turns my voice, turns it into text in the model, and then converts that text back into the different language. So it's basically doing text to speech in a sense. It's doing speech to text to speech, which is great. It works out just fine. Now you obviously got to make sure that it says it right, because there are some examples that I showed that it doesn't generate it perfectly. And if you don't mind that, then that's totally fine. But if you want to have someone double check that it actually said what it was supposed to say, that's probably a good idea. So you can get creative with this. You can use it in your live streams, your video projects, or really the options are limitless. You can use it in an entire video, which I've done in the past, and it sounds pretty good. It's quite powerful, in fact, that I'm going to let it do the outro for this video.
If this video was helpful, please leave a like, and I will also leave a link in the description so you can sign up to 11 Labs for free. I'm also going on a missions trip to Costa Rica. If you want to know how you can be a part of it, check the link in the description. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.